Hello and welcome to this episode of the Glasgow Business Gameplan, where we speak to business owners and entrepreneurs and leaders from across the Glasgow business sector to get some insight from their journeys so far. Today we're joined by our friend Alan Anderson from TSF Finance. Alan, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Yeah, very well. Thanks, Alan. Very well. So good to have you here today. And let's just get started. Tell us a bit more about your business.
Hi. Thanks, Stephen. We are a commercial finance brokerage, headquartered in Glasgow, but across the UK. We specialise in funding finding funding for SME businesses, ranging mainly from small businesses, 100 grand turnover, up to we go beyond 70 million turnover on some of our clients. As I said, UK wide, focus on 3 or 4 main products: invoice finance, asset finance, commercial mortgages, and unsecured loans. Proud to say that we have been voted Invoice Finance Broker of the Year out of the last 3 years, and count ourselves as one of the best boutique brokerages in the UK.
Amazing. And it's great to get that recognition for the work that you do. Tell
Yeah,
us a bit more about the journey that took you from the point of getting started to now getting recognised in the industry.
it's quite an interesting journey. So previously, I was a director and shareholder of a lending business based in London. I was a Scottish person there, in Scotland, and then I got quite deflated with the corporate world and the private equity owned business, and I resigned with the thought of just doing something different. I then went and joined another small brokerage for a period of time, and then I seen a gap in the market. That gap in the market was to be a boutique, more traditional, old-fashioned bank manager. A lot of the broker world just now, people are product specific, but we are more generalist bank managers. So I went and got my FCA approval, and I sat in my kitchen table, round about June, July, 19. And then I was basically what they call a bedroom broker, sitting in the kitchen table, just me out there trying to win work. And then a few people came to market, which I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go for this. I'm going to replicate this service and offer the SMEs something different. That good old-fashioned bank manager. I've got a problem. How do I fix it? That problem can be growth, or it can be negative, a negative problem in terms of losing contracts or unfortunately having to go through an insolvency. And I thought, I'm going to build a team here. I'm going to build the team and replicate that my knowledge across as many people as possible. I'm proud to say now we have 8 people across the UK out there client facing, and we have 3 or 4 people who are really the main people behind it that keep us all right from an operational function. We like to think, being a salesperson, that we are the front and foremost, but we are usually particularly badly organised, and we need people to help behind us.
I can agree with that, definitely. Very good. So, what an exciting journey. You've taken that leap to go out on your own and you've spotted somewhere where you can add value to, a really exciting sector of the marketplace, and that SMEs. So, because you obviously your knowledge, your background, your financial astuteness, if you like, it's been a
I
pretty
wouldn't say
smooth,
that.
well, I mean, it's been a pretty smooth journey for you then, hasn't it? Yeah, just from that, let's start up, and then I've decided I'm going to build up a team, and now we're sitting here with an award-winning business. Straightforward.
Yeah, so easy. It was honestly, I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. Um, no, this has been one of the hardest journeys and got some of the biggest ups and downs I've had personally and in business. People think when you're doing these things, it sounds a great idea at the time, but the what you have to go through and those growing pains, I think ultimately it's made me a better advisor to clients and helping clients out. But I've went through all the growing pains that a client has: employing your first person, signing your first lease, all of the nervousness. How am I going to afford to pay it? Been through every single one of them. And I think we call it quite a lot internally as thresholds. You hit the threshold, you go through the threshold, and then you move up to the next threshold. Um, I wouldn't have changed the journey for the world,
Mm,
because I've personally believe that I've built we have built an amazing culture, an amazing team, and we've got a lot of like it almost feels like a family environment we work within just now. So through the pain and making the mistakes, focused only on numbers when I first started, didn't focus on culture. It was that good old traditional chasing profit, chasing turnover, which was the main driver in the business. Um, but I had a bit of an epiphany about 18 months ago thinking, this isn't fun. I'm not enjoying this. Chasing numbers every month. We need to focus on culture. And in fact, the more I've focused on culture, the revenue has went up 20% without chasing the numbers. We still have targets clearly but we
Mm.
call them more aspirations now, rather than have the target on your back by saying target. Um, Journey has been incredibly difficult, but now it's rewarding, it's fun. I love seeing people grow. I love bringing people on and seeing them grow. I love helping businesses, and but like I love what I do. I love speaking to clients, because even though technically I'm the what you would say MD, although we don't like titles, I'm still on the tools. I'm still getting the coffee for everyone. So this is a very much flat structure, flat cut in the culture. It's all about the culture, and we're having a record year as well. I think we should finally break the 90 million of brokering and from a January to December. We're trending for it. We're tracking for it just now. So we've actually started breaking the 4 or 5 year targets, not focusing on them. They're an aspiration rather than a target. It's now very much about the culture. So there's been a lot of pivots and changes, but I think as a business owner in the current climate, you need to be able to address these. You need to be able to look at it, think. I'm a firm believer that you learn more from failure than you do success. We've had an incredibly successful time, but we just went through a period where I'm like, this isn't funny anymore. Like I've built something that I'm not enjoying, and
Mm.
that's when we took that view of let's just focus on culture, and that's been where we've came from at that point. And it's having fun again. There's still the stresses of running a business,
Yeah.
still painful knowing you have to look at a lease and all of these things, but the overall basis for what we're achieving now is fun. It's great fun.
And I think you touched on every aspect that will bring a challenge to any new business and even existing businesses as well. But it sounds like you had a point where you've had that breakthrough to focus on culture. But what was going on in the background that made you have that almost that that sort of moment of clarity?
I wasn't having fun. I woke up and I'm like, I don't want to, like, it was almost like I would rather have a job than go through this because there's less pressure on it. And then I had to really strip back and think, well, why am I not having fun? And it's because I was living by the profit and loss. I was living by the money in the bank. That was the only focus.
Mm.
And then when you actually pare it back and go back, it's like, well, is that really important? It's not, because it's not the be all, and it shouldn't, for me, it's not the focus of what I want to be. The focus is having the people around you to create the culture. Um, and then you listen to some podcasts and some of the diary of the CEO, which and you listen to a lot of how these people are operating, and it feels like there's a lot of people have had this moment where it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And when you question that, you really need to go back. Otherwise, you're just going to end up in that cycle. And that's been the focal point of everything we do. We must talk and say the word culture 10 times a day. Any negativity, any toxicity, it's just not part of who we are. We're here to provide for our families, nothing more, nothing less. And we need to do that in the best way we can. So yeah, there was more of a period of time where I had to go and do some proper reflection. And what do I want? Like we've got a successful business. We've got a successful business. We were grown every year. We were recognised everywhere, but it just wasn't fun. I
Yeah, no, sorry, just you've sparked a thought there, and it's you and I talk a bit about cash flow in business and all that kind of stuff and how we plan it out and build for the future. But when it comes to something like culture, how do you plan a culture? How do you sit down and say this is what it should look like and by when and how?
I don't think you can. I think culture is something that grows. I don't think that you can plan it and give it a target date. I think you need to live by what you say. You need to look out for the right things. You need to change the mindset of the group in terms of, yeah, the targets are important because we need profit to trade. But how do we get to those targets? The openness of communication was something that was a big thing that changed a lot of the culture. Openness of the profit for the business. Every single person in our team knows what turnover we do each month. We work on, everyone knows, we don't ever now, we don't tell people who are the top and the bottom salespeople because everyone knows what they're doing anyway, so they can judge themselves and where they're at. So we've taken away the league table and we've made it about doing the right thing, not just for the customers, but for yourself. I think quite often salespeople will always try and do the right thing for the company, do the right thing for the customers, but do they actually do the right thing for themselves? And it's really just embedding that throughout the team, living by it. Like living by it. That's the main thing. You need to live by these
Yeah,
things. If you're saying you want to offer flexibility, so for instance, no one tells me where they are or what they're doing because they've instantly got my trust. I don't
yeah,
micromanage. I don't look at people's diaries because if they're delivering on their numbers and the culture's right, everything else will fall into place. Sometimes I do question on a Friday afternoon, but that's probably because I'm also skiving. We always try our hardest. The way that we work, the phones are always on. We're always contactable. But I've got a thing on a Friday afternoon. We've given a lot to the business. It's time to start winding down and recharging our batteries at the weekend. So from that point of view, we're always working from home Friday afternoons. And I know that people will be doing other things while looking at their phone, but it's just it lets them wind down properly for the weekend. In the
yeah,
finance sector, people don't want to necessarily speak to finance people on a Friday afternoon anyway. So let's just take advantage of the downtime and just tidy up and get ready for the week ahead because on Monday morning, the craziness begins. And I think just in getting people into that mindset of trying to wind down. We Another thing that was quite interesting and I led this. I would be answering WhatsApps and text messages and emails about transactions. If a sales guy or one of the other brokers had a tricky transaction, they would text me at 8 o'clock at night and I would reply and we'd have a full-on conversation. I've stopped that now, and I've actually said to a few of them, "Is this really urgent? If it's really urgent, let's have
mm,
a quick chat. If it's not, can we pick it up in the morning?" Because urgent is different for different people. Urgent can be, I just need to get this out my head, Alan. Can I speak to you for 5 minutes at 8 o'clock at night, just so it's out my head? And I'm okay with that because it might not be urgent to the transaction. You've just got someone that needs to download it. And when you get that togetherness and you get that like that sort of movement happening within the team, it really grows a life itself. It starts to take over. It starts to embed itself, and that's where you feel you start to enjoy your job again. I walked into the office today, and it's been a really tough week. It's been so many stresses over the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's taken me beyond my threshold. And I walked into the office today, and the as I said, the brains behind the operations team were sitting in the office, and I said, "Can we work from home tomorrow? Because I'm really tired today." And I think having that openness, and they're looking at me like it's sort of a your business, and I'm like, "But we're in this together. Can I work from home?" And I think they were being. I was actually asking, "Can I work from home? Do I need to come into the office tomorrow?" And everyone's like,
mm,
"Yeah, let's work from home." But when you embrace that and put that across, it's great to know that you're having an impact in people's personal lives because then they're partners. they'll go home, and I know there's been one instance where someone's went home to their partner and moaned about me, and it was like, oh, but Alan does a lot for everybody. He's not going to get it right all the time. And they came into me the next day complaining that their wife had my sides, and I'm thinking that's when you know the culture's right. When the wife of my top sales guy is saying, yeah, but Alan's he's probably just had a moment, yeah, and they had my side, and that's when I laughed, and I tell that story quite often because that's when you know that you're having impact. You're having the
Yeah,
culture when the stress is down. Because there's two things. There's two things. There's stress and pressure. Pressure should be in every job because you should always be putting yourself on. But stress is something that I firmly believe you create. And I think that you bring the stress yourself. Everyone's got pressure. We're always under pressure because we're doing too good or we're not doing well enough. That's always there. But when you add in the stress element, I believe stress is something that we create, and I think it's something that we can control. And I think when you create the culture like that, the pressure and the stress, understanding people are at their thresholds, picking up on people struggling a little bit, it really just breeds itself, and it becomes more of it. We do one of the suggestions when we're moving through the culture and changing the culture. One of the guys down south said, "Can we have an accountability call on a Monday?" And I was very dubious about this. I'm thinking, what? And I said, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And it was at the Christmas night out in December. Said, "Can we have what? And what does that look like?" I said, "I'd like everyone to get on the phone, voluntary on a Monday morning, and say what they want to achieve for the rest of the week." I said, "Okay, let's give it a go." So initially, that accountability call started with, I need to get more leads. I need to do this. I need to learn about this. I and now and it's totally optional. Everyone can come and go as they please. And now the accountability call has actually became our values. So
nice.
just now, get my little post-it that I put every week. I write my little post-it of this week's accountability calls, and mine in the accountability, and mine's is train 4 times, try meditation because everyone's talking about meditation, be grateful, which always is always on mine, and then the business one, get more leads in because I've been told that my lead flow's down this week. So that's and but we need to say that in front of our peers, and then we need to report the following week if we achieved them or not. Nothing happens to you. Nobody has anything like, but it's just embracing a togetherness where people are saying, "Well, I want to achieve this week," and that's what and that has just grown itself. And a lot of our culture is by opening up suggestions to how other people want things to run. And I think
Yeah,
when you stop focusing on profit, you open your eyes to what other people want rather than driving a number. And I think that has been something that you asked earlier, how do you target a timeline in that? I don't think you can. I think it's something that grows rather than like you don't say this is what the culture is going to be, because it's different for everybody. It's how you identify it as in the group that you are, and then you grow from there. So yeah, there isn't a long-winded way of saying there isn't a timeline. There isn't a target. We don't like the word target. We like the word aspirations. And it just grows within itself.
brilliant. No, I love that. Such a detailed answer. I know you sound long-winded, but there's so much in there, Alan. We always look at culture as being one of these things where you take in there's sort of three factors to it for me. It's what do you as a business leader want to bring to the business? What does your team need? And what do your customers need? And I think that by having that focus on it, as you said yourself, you've been able to attract the right kind of customers and clients into your business.
Yeah,
You're being congruent with it as well, so it's not as if it's just words on the wall for you.
no,
It's actually behaviors that you hold each other accountable to, which is again a really strong environment that you're creating in that workforce, and a place where everybody feels trusted and valued, which
yeah,
is again such an important thing as you grow that business. And you're right, that culture will change and develop as you and your business grow as well.
yeah. Thank you.
Some brilliant things in there, Alan. Really, really good to see. And I think you can see that from the results you're getting, you're really leading the team on really well. So if you've got no idea where the culture is going to be in the next 5 years, where's TSF Finance going to be in the next five?
So it's It's really funny you asked that question because I've been thinking about that a lot myself, and I think about I like to reflect on where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I like to look at the process and understand how we are as a business and things. And I think when this first started, it was all about profit. It was all about having salespeople, all about having brokers. Um, that's not the plan anymore. The plan is to grow to be the best boutique generalist commercial broker in the UK. We want to grow the team. We want to grow the team significantly. Um, but we want to bring on the right people rather than rushing people. We want to bring on the right people that will embrace we are. I've got a thing that I like everybody to be humble. Like everyone needs to be humble when we're coming in, and I think that's a big thing for us. So I think when we're looking at where the next 5 years are, I want to continue to be the most established boutique brokerage in the UK. I would really like to double the number. But that's an aspiration. That's not anyway target. And I would also like, I'd like us to consistently we do 90, 80, 90, 100 million of brokering a year, really focused on trying to get that 100 million. And I would really like to breach that a couple of times over the next 4 to 5 years. And then we also have really trying to bring on other people so that I can exit and work my way out the business. I'll never leave. I'll always want to speak with clients because it's the best thing about it. The best thing is when you find someone a solution that no one else has thought of. That's when that's awesome. But I really want to everyone in the business. I want them to all grow and step up, move up to the next level if they want to, move up to the next level and just continue to do that. So the growth is really that can say, what's the word I'm looking for? Retirement planning.
Yeah, and you've caught me out on it as well. I know the word.
Concession can, yeah.
We're thereabouts.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
really bringing on that, making sure that everyone can backfill and work their way up and get promoted.
yeah, brilliant. And do you know what it sounds like, Alan, like for yourself personally, that your success comes from bringing success to other people and seeing them
100%.
really strive, and that's obviously what the business does as well, because we know that the statistics around your marketplace, that small to medium enterprise, are really challenging. Not just with the impacts of the sort of last 4 or 5 years, but traditionally it's always been really difficult for small businesses to grow and drive. I think the statistics that we see are 20% of businesses will fail within the first year of startup.
Yeah.
60% barely make it to 3 years. And then there's I think after 5 years, I think it's single digit in terms of how many businesses are still going from that 5 minute that startup stage. There's loads of factors that comes into that for businesses. Whether that's external factors. Obviously, we've seen that with the pandemic and the impact there that had on some businesses. Sometimes it's over trading. A business gets really hits the ground running, but they don't have the plan and the systems and the operations in the background to continue and support that. Maybe they've not done their market research. They don't know where they fit in, and it sounds like you've done a really good job there to see where your niche is. And a real lack of planning at times. Again, I think we spoke
Yeah.
before we started the call about, sometimes people are pushed into the situation of starting a business because there's been some kind of something's happened, whether it be a redundancy or a change in family circumstances or whatever it is. That can sometimes be an impact because they've not actually planned out what the business looks like. And then when you start to grow as you're doing, bringing in quite a team, sometimes poor leadership and poor management, that can be to
Yeah.
the detriment of the business as well. But
Yeah.
I think the number one, out of those businesses that do fail, I think the main statistic there is 8 out of 10 is down to cash flow management.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you agree? I take it you're agreeing with that,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
is that what
Yeah.
you're seeing?
So
I mean,
yeah. I think it's a really interesting point because a lot of people will come out and say they've failed because they've got HMRC areas. HMRC areas are the product. It's like that's what's happened because of something that's happened 9 months ago. And what you tend to find is that there's when we call it the cause and the effect. The effect is the HMRC areas, but what is the actual cause of that? And usually the cause is really down to two main things we would classify it: not pricing their jobs correctly and not managing their cash flow correctly. Managing the cash flow is something that we are quite good at identifying when someone's overtrading. We work across a lot of working capital solutions, and you can really see businesses that are growing rapidly. They win the work, and they don't know, they think they can fund it, and then the 2 weeks from now they need to buy £100,000 worth of material. They've not got the suppliers credit limits, they've not got, and then all of a sudden they're scratching their head and having a lot of sleepless nights about, this job starts in 2 weeks, how am I going to fund it? And that's where we are really keen on bringing people in and making sure that the accountants are there, that everyone's really working on trying to help the business, because quite often business owners get forced into managing cash flow. They're not set up for that. Like, most people you speak to are excellent electricians, plumbers, engineers, manufacturers, and unbelievable engineers that are incredibly techy and know every machine, sometimes don't understand cash flow, and they don't understand how important cash flow is to the business. And I quite often say to engineers and other tradesmen, it's, yeah, you know how to make that widget. I don't know how to make that widget, but I know how to provide you funding to help your cash flow. And I think
Yeah.
when you put it into that realism, and you say to them, because they feel like failures. Why have I not seen this? They've not seen it because they don't know how to look for it. And that's the big problem that we've got. There's a real educational part where we need to be helping clients, saying to them, if you're winning this work, how are you going to fund it? And from that point of view, that's where we are really good at identifying it and speaking with the lender and saying, these guys have got HMRC arrears, but they don't have any overdraft or invoice finance, and they've got £200,000 of invoices due in. That's why they've got HMRC arrears, because they're not doing it like something to help that asset, or trying to, what I call, sweat that asset to get finance out of it, to get money to keep everything going. And late payments by is on the up. People are paying slower. Insolvencies are on the up. So and these are all things that you can see in the general press, but still nobody talks about cash flow. We
Yeah.
used to run a thing saying you need to know your numbers. You'll speak to what's your revenue this month, what's your turnover, and sometimes directors call things differently. It's like, what's your turnover this month, what's your turnover for the year, what margin you making. Sometimes guys don't know their margins. It's pricing for the work, but they don't know their overheads. And then if they do know their overheads, sometimes they don't take action quickly. And so there's so many things where there's an education piece around needed for business owners, where they need to really understand what a working capital cycle looks like, buying things in, paying for them, running out of credit limits, because quite often people will use HMRC to fund that, and then HMRC, and that's what it is. They use HMRC as a working capital facility, and from that point of view, they need to really pull back from that, because lenders, in the main, don't like companies with HMRC areas, because they see it as a sign of weakness in a lot of instances. Not all, but you can see that pattern. That's like, it's one of the tick boxes for a lender. Is it profitable? Does it have HMRC areas? And what does it do? These are one of the top 3-4 questions that we will ask a client in our qualifying calls,
Sure.
and also that what we will tell the lenders. And again, business owners, that's the effect. The effect is give HMRC areas and they're trying to catch up. But what's the cause? The cause is quite often a lack of planning, understanding the working capital cycle, and that's where we really need to go in and identify and help clients the best we can. point them in the right direction and give them options for them to allow to make a choice on the best way to fund their business. Because quite often clients won't know the options out there. Scotland, up until 2008, was dominated heavily by the top two banks. We've obviously got more lenders and more out here, but there's still an underlying from an underlying thought from SMEs in Scotland is I'll go to my bank. There is more options out there than banks. There's a lot more options out there and a lot quicker options out there than banks. Banks do a phenomenal job. But when the SME business is a little bit rough around the edges, doesn't have up-to-date management accounts, these things, that's when we need to look at other lenders and alternative lenders to help fund these gaps in their working capital, and then try and put the SME back to their accountant or back to other advisors. Maybe they need some part-time FD work to really help them get educated on the working capital facility and the support for and how to run their business. Because quite often people know how to win work, they know how to win contracts, they know how to price them, but if there's delays, if there's delays in those contracts, two contracts come along at the same time because of delays, that's when you start to see people struggle for their working capital and over trading.
Yeah, really, really good point, Alan. And I think, you mentioned, we're talking about cash flow, and cash in a business flows from in to out. And the challenge that you're talking about there is that gap between the cash coming in before it can go out and managing it. So I know that you offer the service and the products that can help businesses with there, and you spoke quite heavily about trades. Was there a particular reason? Are you seeing that yourself, that it's maybe in the construction trade that there's a lack of education, or because of the terms with contractors and subcontractors? What do you see as being the challenge there?
I think, yeah, you definitely see quite a lot of working capital issues in the construction trade. I think when some of these clients are raising their applications, sometimes they're not raising them properly and they're getting pay less notices, so they're getting paid a lot less than the application's for, and that's not factored into their forecast. So you can see from a construction sector that it's very easily for the working capital to fall behind. But it's not just there, it's everywhere. It's like it's everywhere. It really tends, from my personal experience, it really tends to be businesses that are turning over less than 2 million, where it's that owner managed business that they don't have any real accounts person in place. They're reluctant to bring sort of a part-time external resource in. So it's more around, I would say, a turnover position than a trade position. The sort of smaller businesses that are not audited and maybe don't have a regular dialogue with their external accountant, that's where you tend to find that the working capital problems can sneak up on people quicker. When the business is of a higher standard, or sorry, not standard, higher turnover, so north of 5 million, you would see, sorry, apologies, when the business is trading more than 5 million turnover, you would then find that they tend to have an accountant or bookkeeper, and quite often these people can have more of a handle on the working capital of a business because they're trained to do so. So a 1.5 million pound engineering business or construction business, it doesn't have a finance controller. The MD's doing it. The MD's doing the cash flow management, but they're not trained to do so. So I think there's just a little bit of an area there where it's more turnover related than sector related, I would say.
Yeah, really interesting. And I'm sure that there will be people listening to this that can relate to that position. If they do, and they're, what bit of advice would you give them first? Where would they start in terms of being able to get on top of their finances, get control of that gap in their cash flow?
It's an interesting point. I think once the first part is realizing it. The second part is going to the right external accountant and saying, I need to understand my working capital cycle more. That is probably the best way of doing it. There's so much training out there in YouTube as well that it doesn't take much to work out to actually just go into YouTube and watch my understanding working capital cycles.
Mm.
So I would say first and foremost, speak to their accountant and do some research and how they're working it through and trying to really educate themselves on the best way that is right for their business, because every business has a different working capital cycle, different supplier credit limits, different payment terms from their customers. There's so many different ways where that no two businesses are ever really the same.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point. It's something that we speak about quite a lot is every business is unique in its situation, but the principles of running the business are constant, so
Absolutely.
it's being able to understand it from a business perspective and not just a customer service delivery sort of type of understanding as well. So it's a really good point that you make there, Alan.
Absolutely.
We're obviously, as you said, you've got options now within your business to work from home and work flexible, and people down south and up here at the office as well. So you're relying quite a lot on technology.
Yep.
How is technology going to have an impact in your industry? With obviously with the popularity now of artificial intelligence and all these kind of tools, do you think that's going to have a significant impact in your industry and your business in
Yeah,
itself?
I think it will have a significant impact in every part of life, and I absolutely think it will have an impact in the finance industry. I think it's going to take a little bit more time to bed into the finance industry. But yeah, I absolutely think that it is going to be a real key part. I think when some CRM systems now, our CRM system, you can host our website from it. You can bent social media posts from it. You can get all of so you can actually see it just in the day-to-day life. And yeah, it's going to be massively impactful in the future.
Yeah, brilliant. Are you implementing some of that already into your business then?
Yeah, so we're always looking at improving. Like we focus on one of our mottos is quick and efficient, and we're always looking for efficiencies within the business. Spending a lot of time in our CRM system just now, making sure that it can do things for us. So, for example, we finance a van. We can put targets and timelines on there to let the client know when the MOT is up. We're actually adding more of a value as well to the clients, and just to send them automatic emails, letting them know when their contract's up. So yeah, we're absolutely be using the best tech, like the technology to the best we can, with our I'm a bit of a dinosaur, with the CRM system that we're currently using. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant, very good. Well, Alan, I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's clear that you're passionate about your industry, you're passionate about your business. If people have listened to this and they think I might need to speak with Alan and the team at TSF, how are they going to get in touch with you?
Just get us on www.tsffinance.co.uk or reach out to us on LinkedIn. We've got quite a decent LinkedIn following. So yeah, and all our mobile numbers are on the website, all our emails are on the website, so everyone's completely contactable.
Brilliant, Alan. Good luck with the business. It sounds like you're going from strength to strength. And yeah, it'll be
Thank you.
interesting to see how you grow and develop over the next 5 years and really continue to pick up those awards and keep moving
Brilliant.
forward.
Hopefully. Thank you very much.
Enjoyed it a lot, Alan. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.